Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay. Uh, Today will be the last theory class with respect to the ecology and IPM course from my side. So today's class, uh, I will touch upon a few things which is mentioned in your syllabus. Usually it is asked as a one-word question or one-mark question, that sort. So we'll discuss about a few things and we'll finish off. So the first thing is, have you, do you know about a concept called as LD50? I think we have discussed during our discussion with various pesticides. Yes or no? Yes. So first we will see what is LD50. LD50 is the amount of substance or the quantity of a substance or a chemical required to kill 50% of the test organism. I will repeat, lethal dose 50, that is LD50, abbreviated as LD50. That is the quantity or amount of a chemical, we can say in this case a pesticide, the quantity of a pesticide that will kill 50% of the test organism, and its unit is milligram per kg, that is ppm. So what we can take an example is, you take 10 insects, say 10 grasshoppers, and you apply a particular dose of, or say LD50 of a particular chemical, say quinalphos, LD50 value is say 1%. It won't be 1%, it will be extremely lower than that. So if assume that the 1% quinalphos is the LD50, and we apply 1% quinalphos onto these 10 grasshoppers which we have collected, then 5 of them will get killed and 5 of them will get survive. That is lethal dose 50. At that particular dose, it will kill 50% of the organism. The remaining 50% will survive. So that is the meaning 50%. Usually we work it out based in insects. We work it out. We rear insects in our lab and we work it out on laboratory insects. In our lab, we are maintaining storage insects such as Tribolium, Calosobruchus, Lepidopterans such as Spodoptera, etc. We routinely carry out LD50, not actually LD50, LC50, lethal concentration 50 analysis in our entomology department and in pesticide rescue lab. While in case of other animals, we usually do it in rabbit, rat, etc. That is laboratory animals. And there can be two ways of exposure of pesticide to humans. One is oral, that means consuming it through the mouth, or it can be an accidental exposure. Just take the case of a laborer who is carrying out spraying of a particular pesticide. That exposure will be dermal. That means the pesticide will be falling on his skin, and that pesticide can be absorbed through the skin and enter the body. So usually we say LD50 in bracket we will write oral, or LD50 in bracket we will write dermal. That means what will be the quantity of pesticide that will kill 50% of the test organism if it is consumed through the mouth. That is LD50 oral. And what will be the quantity of pesticide that will kill 50% of the test organism if the pesticide is absorbed through the skin? That is LD50 dermal. Okay, clear? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Then we will see the classification of pesticides based on LD50. I think you are familiar with this red, yellow, blue, green triangles on pesticide bottles. Yes. So I am just refreshing you. See, we have 4 colors: red, yellow, blue, and green. don't forget the warning color words above that triangle. See, in the case of extremely toxic pesticides, where the LD50 is oral LD50 is less than 50 ppm. Actually, this is milligram per kg. I forgot to write the unit. It is milligram per kg. In the previous slide, I told you it is milligram per kg. Remember that. That is the LD50 unit. So, in case of those pesticides whose LD50 is less than 50 milligram per kg, the color of the lower triangle is red, and in the upper triangle we have a skull and bone picture along with the wording poison. Remember that. So an extremely, these are called as extremely toxic chemical. Those were having LD50 less than 50 milligram per kg. The lower triangle will be red in color, upper triangle we have skull and bone along with the wordings poison. Then the next toxicity class is highly toxic. Oh, again, spelling mistake, just a minute. Just a minute. The next class is highly toxic. The first one was less than 50 milligram per kg. LD50 was extremely toxic. The next category is highly toxic, where the LD50 ranges from 51 to 500 milligram per kg. And in that bottle, the warning coloration will be bright yellow in color in the lower triangle, and in the upper triangle, there won't be skull and bone, only poison will be written. Only poison will be written. And the third group is moderately toxic, wherein the LD50 is 501 to 5000. The color of the lower triangle is bright blue, and in the upper triangle it will be written danger. And in the last group, that is 5 greater than 5000, it is slightly toxic category, wherein the lower triangle is having bright green color, and there will be a portion written in the upper triangle. I will repeat, we have 4 classes: extremely toxic, highly toxic, moderately toxic, and slightly toxic. Extremely toxic, highly toxic, moderately toxic, and slightly toxic. Extremely toxic, the LD50 will be less than 50 milligram per kg. Highly toxic, it is from 51 to 500. Moderately toxic, it is 501 to 5000. And slightly toxic, it is greater than 5000. Greater than 5000. So the color code is at the lower triangle will be having bright red, bright yellow, bright blue, and bright green for extremely toxic, highly toxic, moderately toxic, and slightly toxic respectively. In the extremely toxic category, the upper triangle will have skull and bone along with poison written over there. In the second category, that is highly toxic, we have only poison written over there. Moderately toxic, we have danger, and in slightly toxic category, we have poison written in the upper triangle. Okay, fine. I think this is familiar to you. I just refreshing that. Okay. Yes or no? Yes. Okay. And the Government of India last year put out a new gazette notification wherein the government is proposing to change the color coding. It is now being followed. Maybe from next year onwards or this year end onwards, this new color coding system may come into force. Actually, this color coding system changes only in the first uh, 2 to 3 category only. We have a new color introduced in between bright red and bright yellow, that is orange. And the LD50 class is also changes. We have a new class at the lower end that is unlikely harmful. The other four classes are the same: extremely toxic, highly toxic, moderately toxic, slightly toxic. And there is a last category introduced that is unlikely harmful. And the LD50, for the extremely toxic one, oral LD50, that is milligram per kg, it is 50 milligram per kg. There is no difference in that. Only difference is that the upper triangle where it was skull and bone, the symbol was there. Along with that, instead of poison, it will be written fatal poison. Fatal poison. So that is one difference, only one difference between the extremely toxic category. In the highly toxic category, the color code there is extremely similar to the highly toxic category is now being followed, but the color code is orange instead of bright yellow. So the color code is orange, and it is not bright yellow. And there it was written poison, and it was the lower triangle was is having orange color, and along with that poison, just like the uh, extremely toxic category, we will be having skull and bone symbol. So remember, the first category, extremely toxic category, there is only difference is that the upper triangle will be having fatal poison. In the highly toxic category, the LD50 and all doesn't change, but the color changes. The lower triangle will be having a color of orange, and the upper triangle will be having skull and bone symbol along with the poison written. So that is highly toxic category. In the moderately toxic category, the LD50 changes. Earlier it was 501 to 5000. Here we have 501 to 1000. And here we have bright yellow. And again, we will be writing poison, just like the bright yellow and poison which was written in the current color coding system. It's there. But the LD50, the moderately toxic category, it was blue in color earlier. Now it is yellow in color, and the LD50 changes from 501 to 1000. In the slightly toxic category, it ranges from 1001 to 5000, and it is bright blue and danger. That is in the slightly toxic category. Earlier it was green in color, now it is blue in color, and there will be danger written over the, but the LD50 class is ranging from 1001 to 5000 ppm. And in the last category, unlikely to be harmful, it is bright green and caution, and the LD50 is greater than 5000. That is similar to the slightly toxic category. So remember the toxicity classification: extremely toxic, highly toxic, moderately toxic, slightly toxic. In the new classification, we have one more category in use, that is unlikely to be harmful. The LD50 classes ranges from less than 50, 50 to 51 to 500, 501 to 1000. That's a new category introduced. 1001 to 5000, again a new category, and greater than 5000. That is an older category. The color code in between red and yellow, we have orange introduced, and in the red category, we have skull and bone, and the wording is changed to fatal poison. And in the orange category, that is the new category, there is skull and bone along with poison written in the upper triangle. In the moderately toxic category, it is yellow with poison written over the upper category. And in the fourth category, that is slightly toxic category, it is blue in color, and it will be written danger. And in the last category, bright green, it is caution written in the upper triangle. So just understand that the color coding is going to get changed, because by the time you close out, the color coding may change. So that's why I told you, no need to study study this for your exam purpose for the existing classification only is needed. Okay. Coming to a few topics, few definitions and all. The first one is ADI, the second one is MRL, the third is waiting period, and the last, that is what are the antidotes. Have you ever heard about ADI, MRL, waiting period, etc.? What is ADI? No one? It is acceptable daily intake. Acceptable daily. You can hear the, you can see the second point. Acceptable daily intake. This one, acceptable daily intake. And the MRL, the expansion is maximum residue limit. Maximum residue limit. So we have two terminologies, acceptable daily intake and maximum residue limit. Here I have introduced a new terminology, no observed adverse effect level. NOAEL, no observed adverse effect level. NOAEL. So, because that is needed to explain, that's why I am describing acceptable daily intake. One of your classmates in between your classes described what will happen if we consume a vegetable or fruit containing pesticide. This is the session that I will explain what will happen if you consume it. So, I will tell a scenario how we this acceptable daily intake, maximum residue limit, and all is worked out. So first, I will explain NOAEL, no observed adverse effect level, and then I will go to maximum ADI and MRL. So what scientists will do, if a scientist, say one scientist from KU has discovered a new pesticide, so we wish to test its toxicity, we need to check the LD50 to human beings. But we can't give that pesticide to human beings to check its toxicity. How you work out LD50 oral for human beings? You can't give that pesticide to a human being, ask him to consume it, and we can't check it whether that person is getting killed or not, whether the 50% population is getting killed or not. So that's not possible. So what we will do is, we will test it in laboratory animals such as rabbits, rats, etc. We will rear different sets of rabbits, laboratory animals such as rabbits, rats, etc. Then every day they will be given a particular quantity of pesticide through the diet. Say we will take 100 rabbits. We will divide it into 10 groups with 10 rabbits each. I am repeating. We took 100 rabbits. We divided it into 10 groups with 10 animals each. And each group will be receiving different concentration of pesticide daily. And one group will be controlled. We won't be giving any pesticide to them. The last group will be controlled. We will be giving normal food to them. So the remaining 9 groups will receive different concentration of pesticides daily through the diet. So whenever we are feeding the rabbit in the morning, we will add a particular concentration of pesticide to it. That same concentration will be fed daily to that particular group. In the second group, we will give a higher concentration, third group again higher. So we will give a range of pesticide to different groups. And if a rabbit gets killed during the experimental process, we will conduct a postmortem and we will check the cause of the death. And if the postmortem report says that it got killed of the poisoning from the pesticide, we will mark because of poisoning of pesticide. In that similar manner, each and every dose, the mortality of rabbit, we will note it down what is the dose. So at the lower concentration, what will happen is the in animal, say rabbit or rat may be living for a longer time, and it may get killed or because of natural causes, aging or other any other natural causes. The death may not cannot be attributed to the consumption of the pesticide. So that particular dose which was fed to that group of test animals, we had 9 group of animals which are fed with different concentration of pesticides, and one group of pesticide was not at all fed with any pesticide. And among the pesticide fed group, which group that they receive a particular concentration of pesticide through food daily did not show any adverse effect because of the consumption of that pesticide. That concentration and those concentrations which are below that concentration, which did not cause any adverse effect to that particular organism, even if the animal consumes it throughout its lifetime through the diet, that concentration is called as NOAEL, no observed adverse effect level. Are you clear? If it's not clear, you can ask. I will repeat it. Don't hesitate to ask. Okay, fine. So you understood. That means you identified a particular dose below which, even if the animal consumes it daily throughout its diet, throughout the entire lifetime, even if the animal consumes, it won't cause any adverse effect. You found out that dose. But we can't say that that particular dose will be safe to human beings, because rat is rat, rabbit is rabbit, and we can't equate rabbit to human beings. A particular dose which was found safe to rabbit may not be safe to human beings, because human beings, the physiology is entirely different. So we can't test in human beings also. So what we will do is we will divide that particular dose, NOAEL dose, by 100. Imagine the dose which we calculated as NOAEL in rabbit is 10 ppm. 10 ppm. That means if a rabbit is fed with a pesticide, a maximum concentration of about say 10 ppm or any concentration below it daily through the diet, it won't cause any adverse effect to rabbit. That dose is again, a unit is again milligram per kg. Okay. So a rabbit weighing 1 kg fed with 10 milligram of a particular pesticide daily throughout its lifetime will not cause any adverse effect, that we have worked out. But we can't extrapolate it to human beings. Say 10 ppm, if we consume it daily, if a human being consumes daily, it won't cause any adverse effect to human. That we can't extrapolate. So what we will do is we will divide 10 divided by 100. So what will be the value if we divide 10 by 100 quickly? 0.1. Yes. So we will take this 0.1 milligram per kg as the acceptable daily intake for human beings. I am repeating, we will take the value, NOAEL value, that divided by 100, that value we will take acceptable daily intake. This means that if a person weighing 1 kg, I am repeating, if a person weighing 1 kg consumes 0.5 milligram of that particular pesticide daily through his diet, it won't cause any adverse health impact to that particular human being. Again, I am telling, if a person weighing 1 kg consumes zero point 0.1 milligram of that particular pesticide which we are testing daily throughout his lifetime through the diet, it won't cause any adverse effect to that human. So I will ask a few persons there. Weight. Meera Rajendran, what is your weight? It's not the Arya G Prakash. What's your weight? .48. So how much quantity of pesticide based on the ADA value you can consume daily? Point. We calculated ADA as 0.1. 4.8. It is 4.8. Anjuran is correct. It is 4.8. That means you can consume 4.8 milligram of that particular pesticide daily throughout your lifetime without any adverse effect with your uh, health. Who is the heaviest person in your class? Who has the maximum weight? Harikrishnan? I lost the class representative.
Sir,
ആർക്കാണോ ഏറ്റവും വെയിറ്റ് കൂടുതൽ?
sir, Akash Deebaisu.
ആരാ?
Akash.
Akash. Akash is here in the class.
No, sir. അവൻ ക്വാറന്റൈനിലല്ലേ?
What will be his weight roughly? Anyone knows?
75 ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ടാകും.
75. So he can consume about 7.5 milligram daily. So that is based on the body weight. I was taking this class to one group of one set of pesticide dealers, and they asked why we are calculating it based on weight. So if you take your brother or sister, younger brother or younger sister to hospital to a pediatrician, you might have seen the doctor first takes the weight of that kid, isn't it? And he calculates the dose of paracetamol based on the weight of the kid. Isn't that? Yes or no? നിങ്ങൾക്ക് മക്കളൊക്കെ ആകുമ്പോൾ അത് കൃത്യം അറിയാം. Yes, that's the way. Because any drug, it is acting based on the weight of the human. So that is acceptable daily intake. Then I will just read out the definition. Then you can understand what is. That is acceptable daily intake is the maximum concentration of pesticide residue which when ingested over the entire life period will not cause any adverse effect based on the knowledge at that time. Because we are later on, after further studies may find out some adverse effect to that we may not know. But according to our current understanding, this concentration, this maximum concentration of pesticide, if we ingest or consume over your entire life period, will not cause any adverse effect. And its unit is milligram per kg body weight per day because you are consuming it daily. Milligram per kg body weight per day. And I told you how we are calculating NOAEL, ADA, NOAEL divided by 100. So why it is 100? 100 is a safety factor. We are improving the human safety by 100 times by dividing NOAEL by 100. Usually World Health Organization and other related organization calculates acceptable daily intake. Now comes the second definition, that is MR, maximum residue limit. Here we have worked out ADA, acceptable daily intake. Now we will see MRL, that is where how much quantity of pesticide will remain in a crop once we spray that pesticide in that particular crop. Say I calculated LD50 of that particular pesticide. I know the acceptable daily intake. Now I want to check in the field whether how up to what time the residue will be, pesticide residue will be remaining in that particular crop. So I wanted to try it in tomato. So I grow tomatoes. I will spray the pesticide on the tomato crop. I'll take the fruit. I will check and I will determine the level of pesticide in that tomato. So here one thing is critical. It's not that simple spraying of a pesticide. That pesticide should be sprayed according to good agricultural practices, GAP, good agricultural practices. That means if you are recommending a particular pesticide, you will recommend say 2 ml per liter or 2 ml per 10 liter, whatever be the quantity. You are taking the exact concentration. You are not taking more than the recommended concentration or less than the concentration. And as per the protocol recommended for spraying, say we will say that for 1 acre of area you should spray 200 liters of pesticide solution. Then you will be spraying this 200 liters containing this 2 ml of pesticide per liter in this 1 acre of area. And you will be there will be a direction that you should harvest the produce only after 5 days. You will harvest the produce after 5 days and then carry out residue analysis to check the quantity of pesticide in that. Then we will say that this is the maximum possible residue present in a or on a food or any commodity when the pesticide is used according to good agricultural practices. That is the maximum concentration. Here, one thing you should keep in mind is that if I want to register a pesticide in our country, it is not sufficient to get this data from a single crop grown in a place alone. Say I have raised tomato in Kerala according to good agriculture, according to all the recommended practices. I ground the crop. I took the sample. I found out the maximum concentration of residue that is possible in tomatoes. But that is only in Kerala. India has a diverse climate from cold climate in Jammu Kashmir and Himalayas, then extreme hot in Rajasthan, Gujarat, etc. We have another set of climate in northeast. So our entire region is different. So if we need to get registration, we should test this chemical in different parts of the country. We should grow tomato in all the different regions of the country and according to all the recommended practices, that is good agriculture practices, we will spray the pesticide and after the period say we harvest the produce and check the pesticide residues. So say we conducted in 10 different states of our country the experiment, same experiment simultaneously, and we have the residue value from these 10 different areas. Whether all the from all the different areas, whether this residue will be value will be the same or it can be whether it will be different. What is your opinion? If you are growing 10 tomato crops in 10 different states, spraying the same pesticide at the same concentration, it can differ. It will differ. It will differ. Not can, it will differ. Because say one thing, Kerala, we have huge rainfall. Up to January, we had rainfall. I sprayed the pesticide in the crop ground in Kerala. After 3 hours or 4 hours, a heavy downpour happened. What will invariably the residue in Kerala will be low. So what we will do is we took the residue value from all the 10 locations, and we won't take average. We won't take average. We will take the maximum residue obtained from these 10 locations. Say, Andhra Pradesh location, it had the maximum, it reported the maximum residue. We will avoid all the data and we will take Andhra data alone. And say that if you spray that pesticide in India, whatever be the location, in India, in tomato, after 5 days of spray, if you harvest the commodity, the maximum possible residue is this one. Understood? Yes or no? Yes. I will repeat again. If anyone is having any doubt, please ask. We have 10 different locations. We got Andhra Pradesh as the location having the highest residue. We will avoid all the other 9 locations. And we will say that if you grow that tomato in India, anywhere in India, and spray that particular pesticide on tomato, and if you harvest the tomato fruits after 5 days, the maximum possible residue is this much. The other locations can record lower values. That is immaterial. But what is the maximum concentration that can be observed in our country? That is the value that we obtain from Andhra. Because this is a national registration. Every pesticide is registered at the national level, not at the state level. If a pesticide is registered in Kerala, we can say in Kerala we conducted at 2 or 3 locations. Okay, among the 3 locations, this is the maximum possible residue. No, we can't say that because a pesticide is always registered for the entire country. So that should be. And what we are saying is, yes, this is the maximum possible residue of that pesticide. If you spray on tomato and harvest it after 5 days of spray, that is maximum residue limit, and its unit is ppm, parts per million. I will read out the definition. This is the maximum concentration of a residue that is legally permitted or recognized as acceptable. That is legally permitted means this maximum residue limit is fixed by Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, FSSAI. I think you are familiar with FSSAI. Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Yes or no? Yes. This MRL value is fixed by FSSAI. Once this FSSAI fixes this MRL, that is a legal value. That means if a farmer grows a particular commodity, he has to grow according to good agriculture practices. And if he grows according to good agriculture, that is all the recommended practices if we follow, then the residue will be, maximum residue will be this much. That is a legal value. And if we test that commodity and if the value is above that, he is liable to be prosecuted. But nowadays, nobody is taking that action. But for certain commodities, FSSAI usually take action. You might have learned about the problem of pesticide residues in chili powder and all certain brands of chili powder, and FSSAI took action against that particular brand. Have you read it in your newspapers? What FSSAI did was they collected chili powder brands, Molagodi, പല ബ്രാൻഡിന്റെ മുളക് പൊടി മാർക്കറ്റിൽ നിന്ന് എടുത്തു, റെസിഡ്യൂ ചെക്ക് ചെയ്തു. ആ മുളകില് പ്രിസ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്ന MRP വാല്യൂ ഉണ്ട്, അതിനേക്കാൾ കൂടുതലാണോ എന്ന് കണ്ട് ആ ബ്രാൻഡ്സിനെതിരെ FSSAI ലീഗൽ ആക്ഷൻ എടുത്തു. സോ ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് എ ലീഗൽ റിക്വയർമെന്റ് ഫോർ എനി കമ്മോഡിറ്റി. Normally for farmers, FSSAI does not act because he is a very poor farmer. So they will take usually action against companies only. So farmers usually get exemption from that. So this is the maximum concentration of a residue, pesticide residue, that is legally permitted or recognized as acceptable in or on a food. In or on a food means if a pesticide is systemic, the residue will be inside the commodity. If it is a contact pesticide, it will be remaining outside the commodity. That is inside, in or on a food, agriculture commodity or animal feedstuff. So residue we check on food, agriculture commodity, animal feedstuff, maize which is given to feed, fodder which is given to animals, all we can check for residues. When the pesticide is used under supervision, adopting good agricultural practices. When the pesticide is used under supervision, adopting, that is critical. Say we are recommending a farmer to spray 2 ml per liter of a particular pesticide, and if a farmer sprays 4 ml per liter, it is not good agriculture practices. Here the MRL will not apply because the farmer has to follow good agriculture practices. If he doesn't follow good agriculture practices, invariably his residue will cross the maximum residue limit. The next sentence is, this is purely a trade limit and it is not a toxicological limit. Do you have a class? Uh, Otherwise, I will stop with this explanation and will complete antidote and finish it. If you have class, I will. If you are free the next time, or if you are interested, I will. Yes, Harish.
ആ സാർ ഇപ്പൊ ക്ലാസ് ഇല്ല, ഉച്ചയ്ക്ക് ശേഷമേ ഉള്ളൂ.
If you are interested, I will tell you how you correlate this ADA and MRL. If you need, I will explain. Otherwise, I will skip. I will just tell the definition and I will skip. If you need it, you have to tell. It's not compulsory. This is just for information only. You need. Okay. One thing is, quickly you have to tell a few things. I will share my entire screen, and then you can calculate. Say, what we will do is we have MRL fixed for each and every commodity. Each and every commodity MRL, maximum residual limit, is fixed for a particular pesticide. Say I will take a typical pesticide, say Quinalfos. Ecalex എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ കീടനാശിനിയാണ്. So the MRL is, Quinalfos is recommended in about 20 commodities. 20 commodities. So in that case, that MRL value is fixed. Say for, if it is recommended in rice, the MRL value will be there. If it is recommended in say wheat, the MRL value will be there. If it is recommended in brinjal, MRL value will be there. So for all those, MRL value will be there. What we are assuming is that every commodity is having Quinalfos residues, and these residues are at the maximum residue limit level. Every residue is at, every commodity is having pesticide at the prescribed MRL level. So then we calculate the food we consume. I will just a minute. I will share my screen. One person has to come forward and tell whatever he or she has taken as food yesterday. Voluntarily, he or she has to tell it quickly, and I will take the pesticide as Quinalfos. And for easiness, I am taking the MRL value for all the commodities as 1 ppm. It's not same for all the commodities. It's different for different commodities, but for easy calculation, I am taking it as 1 ppm. So food item, then quantity consumed. Now I will share my window. Who is coming forward? Can you see an Excel sheet?
Yes, sir.
Yes. ആരാ പറയുന്നത്? ആരെങ്കിലും ഒരാള് വേഗം പറയണം. ആരെങ്കിലും പറയടോ. എന്നാ ഹരീഷ്ണൻ തന്നെ പറ. So Harishnan, what you took first in the morning yesterday or today?
Sir, പുട്ട്.
പുട്ട്. Okay. So what all constitute പുട്ടിൽ എന്തൊക്കെയാ ഉള്ളത്?
പുട്ടിൽ അരിപ്പൊടി ഉണ്ട്, തേങ്ങയുണ്ട്.
റൈസ്, കോക്കനട്ട്. ഓക്കെ. ഇതില് നിങ്ങൾ മൈക്ക് ഓൺ ചെയ്തോളൂ. ആർക്കെങ്കിലും ഇതിൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒക്കെ ആഡ് ചെയ്യാനുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ പറയാം കേട്ടോ. എന്തോരം പുട്ട് കഴിച്ചു?
സാർ 2 കഷ്ണം.
2 കഷ്ണം. റഫ്ലി വാട്ട് വിൽ ബി ദ ക്വാണ്ടിറ്റി ഓഫ് റൈസ്? ഞാനൊരു റഫ് ക്വാണ്ടിറ്റി ഇടട്ടെ. ഒരു 200 gram.
Okay, sir.
Okay, I will put it in kg, 0.2 kg, because our value is in MRL is in 1 ppm. 1 ppm is nothing but milligram per kg. Milligram per kg. Okay. So 0.2. Added 0.2. Coconut, I am avoiding coconut because quinol force is not recommended in coconut. So we won't be calculating that, avoiding coconut. So what was there for പുട്ടിന് കൂടെ എന്തായിരുന്നു കറി?
സർ കടല.
കടല. ഓക്കെ. ബംഗാൾ ഗ്രാം. ബംഗാൾ ഗ്രാം അല്ല, ചിക്പി അല്ലേ? അതെ, ബംഗാൾ ഗ്രാമും ചിക്പി ഒന്ന് തന്നെ. ഓക്കെ. എന്തോരം കടല കഴിച്ചു?
സാർ അത്യാവശ്യം ഉണ്ടാവും.
ഞാനൊരു റഫ് ക്വാണ്ടിറ്റി ഇടാം. 0.05, അതായത് 50 gram.
ഓക്കെ സർ.
ഓൾമോസ്റ്റ് ശരി. ഇവിടെ വേറൊരു കാര്യമുണ്ട്. കടലക്കറിയില് കടല മാത്രമല്ല, വാട്ട് ഓൾ തിങ്സ് ആർ ആഡഡ് ഇൻ ചിക്പി. ഹിയർ ദാറ്റ്സ് വൈ ആഡഡ്, ഐ നീഡ് അതേഴ്സ് ടു പിച്ച് ഇൻ. ബാക്കിയുള്ളവർക്കും പറയാം ഒരു കടലക്കറിയിൽ എന്തൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടാവും. പറയടോ, വേഗം വേഗം പറയണം. ബാക്കിയുള്ളവരും മൈക്ക് ഓൺ ചെയ്തിട്ട് വേണമെങ്കിൽ പെട്ടെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു.
ചില്ലി പൗഡർ.
ചില്ലി പൗഡർ. എന്തോരം നമ്മളൊരു കറിയിലിട്ട ചില്ലി പൗഡർ അല്ല മൊത്തം പറയേണ്ടത്. ഹരികൃഷ്ണൻ കഴിച്ച ക്വാണ്ടിറ്റി കടലയിലെ ചില്ലി പൗഡർ ആണ് ഹരികൃഷ്ണന്റെ അകത്തേക്ക് ചെന്നിട്ടുള്ളൂ. അല്ലാണ്ട് വീട്ടിലെ എല്ലാവർക്കും വേണ്ട ചില്ലി പൗഡറിന്റെ കണക്ക് നമ്മൾ ഇവിടെ കൂട്ടാൻ പറ്റില്ല. അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ അതിനൊരു ചെറിയ ക്വാണ്ടിറ്റി ഇടുകയാണ്, ഒരു റഫ്ലി 0.01 എന്ന്. അതായത് 10 gram എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് വളരെ കൂടുതലാണ്. 0.001 എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് 0.001. 1 gram ഒക്കെ അല്ലേ വരുള്ളൂ മുളക് പൊടി. അതിൽ കൂടുതൽ കഴിക്കുമോ ഒരു കറിയില്? നമുക്ക് കഴിക്കുന്ന ഇതില് അതിൽ കൂടുതൽ വരാൻ സാധ്യത കുറവാണ്. ശരി, പിന്നെ എന്താ മുളക് പൊടി അല്ലാതെ കടലക്കറിയില്?
സാർ പൊട്ടറ്റോ.
എത്ര വരും ക്വാണ്ടിറ്റി? ഉരുളക്കിഴങ്ങിന് കടലേക്കാൾ കുറവല്ലേ വരുള്ളൂ?
അതെ സർ.
അപ്പൊ 0.02, 20 gram ഉരുളക്കിഴങ്ങുണ്ട്. ശരി. പിന്നെ പെൺകുട്ടികൾക്ക് ആർക്കും ഒന്നും പറയാനില്ലേ? കടലക്കറി ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നത് എങ്ങനെയാണ്, ചേരുവകൾ എന്തൊക്കെയെന്ന് ചോദിച്ചാൽ ഇൻഗ്രീഡിയൻസ്. ഇത്രയായ കടലക്കറി ആയോ? കടലയും മുളക് പൊടിയും മല്ലിപ്പൊടി coriander. Again, I am taking the same quantity as chili powder, 0.001. ഉള്ളി ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നില്ലേ? ഒണിയൻ.
അതെ സർ.
ഓക്കെ. ഉള്ളി ഞാൻ ഇടുകയാണ് 0.01. 10 gram ഉള്ളി ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ശരി. ചായ കുടിച്ചില്ലേ കാലത്ത്? ചായ കുടിച്ചു. അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ ശരിക്കും പറഞ്ഞ പാലിനൊക്കെ MRL ഉണ്ട്. ഇപ്പൊ ചില പെസ്റ്റിസൈഡ്, some pesticides are recommended as veterinary drugs, so it can be applied on cattle and that residue may end up in milk. But quinalphos is not a pesticide which is recommended in cattle, so that's why I'm not including it in milk. But one is ചായയിൽ എന്തൊക്കെയാ വരുന്നത് അത് പറയാം എല്ലാവർക്കും. എന്തൊക്കെ രേഷണ പറഞ്ഞു? പാല് പറഞ്ഞു,
ചായപ്പൊടി.
ചായപ്പൊടി. In tea, quinalphos is recommended. So tea I will add. So here it will be say roughly എത്ര gram വരും? 0.0. Again I am at 10 gram. It's too much. 0.005. I'm adding 5 gram. Okay. ഒരു ചായക്ക് ഹരികൃഷ്ണൻ ഒരു ചായക്ക് ഒരു 5 gram ചായപ്പൊടി. 5 gram തന്നെ കൂടുതലാണ് എങ്കിലും. ഓക്കെ. ഉച്ചക്കോ? ഇന്നലെ ഉച്ചക്ക് എന്തായിരുന്നു?
ഉച്ചക്ക് ചോറ്.
ചോറ്. എന്തോരം ചോറ്? എത്ര ക്വാണ്ടിറ്റി ചോറ്?
ഒരു 300 gram ഉണ്ടാവില്ലേ?
300 gram. ഓക്കെ. അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ കഴിച്ച അരിയുടെ കൂടെ ഈ 300 കൂടെ കൂട്ടുകയാണ്. മനസ്സിലായോ? 0.2 plus 0.3 it comes 0.5. പിന്നെ കറി എന്തായിരുന്നു?
പരിപ്പ് കറി.
പരിപ്പ് കറി. പരിപ്പ് കറിയിലും നമുക്ക് മുളക് വരും. ഞാൻ എല്ലാം ആഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല, ഞാൻ ജസ്റ്റ് ഒരു എക്സാമ്പിളിന് വേണ്ടി. മുളക് പൊടി വന്നില്ലേ?
അതെ സർ.
അപ്പൊ അഗെയിൻ ഞാൻ ഐ ആം ആഡിങ് വൺ മോർ, സോ ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ബി 0.002. പിന്നെ എന്താ വേറെ?
സർ രസം.
രസം. രസത്തില് മുളക് പൊടി അതിന്റെ കൂടെ പോയി. തക്കാളി വരില്ലേ രസത്തില്? ടൊമാറ്റോ 0.01. 10 gram തക്കാളി വരില്ല. പിന്നെ
വെളുത്തുള്ളി.
ഉള്ളി, വെളുത്തുള്ളി, ഗാർലിക്. ഗാർലിക് വളരെ കുറച്ചേ വരുള്ളൂ, 0.005. പിന്നെ കറി എന്തായിരുന്നു? വേറെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്ന
പപ്പടം.
പപ്പടം വേണ്ട. പപ്പടമൊക്കെ കണക്കൂട്ടാൻ പ്രയാസം, വളരെ ചെറിയ അളവേ വരും. വേണ്ട. ഇനിയിപ്പോ രാത്രി എന്തായിരുന്നു? ചോറ് തന്നെയായിരുന്നു?
അല്ല, ചപ്പാത്തി.
ചപ്പാത്തി ബീറ്റ് ഒരു 200 gram 0.2. പിന്നെ കറി എന്തായിരുന്നു?
പനീർ.
പനീർ. പാലാണ്, അപ്പൊ അതില്ല, പാലില് റെക്കമെൻഡേഷൻ ഇല്ല. അപ്പൊ അതില് പക്ഷെ പനീറിന്റെ കൂടെ നമുക്ക് ഇവിടെ മുളക് പൊടി, മല്ലിപ്പൊടി ഒക്കെ വരും. വൈകുന്നേരത്തെ ചായ വരുമ്പോ ആ ചായയുടെ ക്വാണ്ടിറ്റി ഇവിടെ വരും. 0.01 0.005. 2 ചായ കുടിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ 3 ചായ കുടിച്ചാൽ അതിന്റെ എങ്ങനെ ആഡ് ചെയ്യണം. So what he have done is, every day whatever quantity we are consuming, we will note it down. And what we are assuming is, we have pesticides at MRL level in all these commodities. Harikrishnan കഴിച്ച അരിയിലും കടലയിലും മുളക് പൊടിയിലും ഉരുളക്കിഴങ്ങിലും എല്ലാത്തിലും ക്വിനാൾഫോസ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു എന്നും അതെല്ലാം MRL വാല്യൂവിലായിരുന്നു, അതായത് 1 ppm എന്നും നമ്മൾ അസ്യൂം ചെയ്തു. അപ്പൊ ഇവിടെ നമ്മുടെ MRL വാല്യൂ ഞാൻ ഇവിടെ എഴുതുകയാണ് 1. എല്ലാത്തിലും 1 ppm. പക്ഷെ ഒരു കാര്യം ശ്രദ്ധിക്കണം. One point you have to consider is, it is per kg. He has consumed only half kg. So what will be the actual quantity of pesticide consumed by Harikrishnan? It will be 0.5 in from rice. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനെ ഓരോ കമ്മോഡിറ്റിയും ഒരു ദിവസം കഴിച്ചത് കൂട്ടി കൂട്ടി അതിന് എത്ര മാത്രം പെസ്റ്റിസൈഡ് വന്നു എന്ന് നമ്മൾ നോക്കും. Then we will sum it up. We got the value, the total quantity of quinalphos that might have entered through food in a day was 0.808 ppm. So we have calculated this. Then we compare with the ADI. Say ADI of quinalphos in human beings is 2 ppm. And what that ADI means, even if Harikrishnan consumes quinalphos up to 2 ppm daily, it will not cause any adverse health effect to Harishna. So whether consuming this much quantity of quinol phos daily will cause any adverse effect to Harikrishna? എന്താ ഹരീഷ്ണ എന്ത് തോന്നുന്നു? ഡെയിലി ഇത്രയും ക്വാണ്ടിറ്റി കഴിച്ചു, ADA ഈ 2 BPM ആണ്. ഹെൽത്ത് ഇഫക്ട് ഉണ്ടാവുമല്ലോ?
ഉണ്ടാകില്ലല്ലോ.
ഉണ്ടാകില്ല. But if it is 0.5 ppm, then the scenario is different. Understood? So if this ADA, അപ്പൊ ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു സിനാരിയോയില് ADAയില് ക്കാൾ കൂടുതലാണ് MRL എങ്കിൽ, നമ്മൾ കണക്ക് കൂട്ടുന്ന MRL എങ്കിൽ, we will remove certain commodities from this list. Otherwise, sometimes we may add, we may remove certain certain recommendations we will remove. Say quinol phos, we will avoid that recommendation. Usually wheat and all, quinol phos is not that recommended. So because in wheat there is not much insect pest. So if we avoid wheat itself, the quantity will decrease. Otherwise, what we will do is we will increase the waiting period. That is the next term I will be explaining. Waiting period is the period that we have to leave after spraying a pesticide and the harvest. That means if you are spraying a pesticide today, you should harvest only after, say, 5 days, 3 days, 6 days, etc. This is waiting period. So if quinol phos is already having in rice, if it is having a waiting period of 5 days, that means if quinol phos is sprayed in rice, you are harvesting it in after 5 days. Yes, government prescribed that you can harvest after 5 days. Then the MRL is 1 ppm. But if you have some problem with ADA value and all, then government will prescribe that instead of 5 days, you should harvest only after 10 days. Then the maximum residue limit will decrease, because if you are with each passing day, the residue will decrease. So in this manner, we will the government will adjust. So that is how we calculate AD. We compare ADI and MRL. So this is, I don't know whether you understood or not. Oh, Pranav. So many comments was I couldn't see. I couldn't see all those things. Sorry for that. I couldn't see that. So many things. So few things. Oil was there, curry leaf was there, ginger. All those things will add into it. I forgot to add, so that we can add it like that. You know, somebody has commented chicken masala, but we can't add a commodity like chicken masala. We have to take individual component of chicken masala, say peppers, coriander, chili, etc. So this is how we cover. Are you clear how we compare MRL and ADI? Did you have some idea? It's not that we calculate it every day. It's what the government does is, government has a set of dietary pattern for an Indian, because they know that roughly an Indian consumes this much quantity of rice, this much quantity of onion, this much quantity of brinjal, this much quantity of bindi daily. So that data is available, that daily consumption data, dietary pattern, and based on that they work out this calculation. Is it fine? Yes. Okay, but this is purely trade limit means, because that's what the term sentence I wanted to explain. Because this is whatever things which we have described is based on fresh food. Fresh food ആണ് നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞത്. Rice എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ we calculate MRL, we calculate analyze pesticide residues in the commodity which is sold in the market. അരി എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ പുട്ടിലെ റെസിഡ്യൂ അല്ല നമ്മൾ ചെക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. നമ്മൾ കടയിൽ നിന്ന് മേടിക്കുന്ന പച്ചരിയിലെ റെസിഡ്യൂ ആണ് ചെക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അല്ലാതെ അത് പൊടിച്ച് പുട്ടാക്കി കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടുള്ള റെസിഡ്യൂ അല്ല നമ്മൾ നോക്കുന്നത്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ കഞ്ഞി വെക്കുന്ന ചോറുണ്ടാക്കുന്നതാണെങ്കിൽ കടയിൽ നിന്ന് മേടിക്കുന്ന മട്ട അരിയിലെ റെസിഡ്യൂ ആണ് നമ്മൾ കണക്കുന്നത്, നോട്ട് ദ റെസിഡ്യൂ ആഫ്റ്റർ ബോയിലിംഗ് ഇറ്റ് ഇൻ വാട്ടർ ഫോർ അബൌട്ട് 1.5 years. അരി വേവിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഉള്ള കഴിച്ച് ചോറായി കഴിഞ്ഞതിന് ശേഷമുള്ള റെസിഡ്യൂ അല്ല നമ്മൾ കണക്ക് കൂട്ടുന്നത്. So what will normally happen is whenever we are cooking a food, 50 to 70% of the residue will be lost because none of the pesticide residues can survive that much extreme high temperature. Then why we are prescribing it in fresh commodity or commodity? നമ്മളൊരു അരി മേടിക്കാൻ കടയിൽ ചെന്ന് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ പല സാമ്പിൾ അരി വെച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടാവും. നമ്മൾ എന്താ ചെയ്യുന്നത്? ആദ്യം ഓരോ മണി എടുത്ത് നമ്മൾ പതുക്കെ ഒന്ന് വായിലിട്ട് കടിച്ചു നോക്കും അല്ലേ, നല്ലതാണോ അല്ലയോ. So we can have an exposure like that. Say tomato, you purchase tomato from a shop, and once it is there, you may take a tomato freshly. It's not that always tomato is consumed in a cooked form. As salad also you may consume. So there is a chance for that, but most of the time Indian cuisine, it is overcooked. നമുക്ക് ഭയങ്കര ചൂടാക്കി വറുത്ത് പൊരിച്ചാണ് നമുക്ക് കഴിക്കാൻ നമ്മൾക്ക് ശീലം. So that removes about 60 to 70% of the pesticide. So most of the time, the residue problem in commodities is exaggerated. It is exaggerated. And we are checking the residues. I'm in charge of the lab, so I know roughly only 5% of the commodities are having residues above MR. Only 5%. That means if you take 100 samples, only 5 samples will have residues above MR. So it's not that the huge issue. Don't worry about this, what media say. That's why I explained this, all those things a bit elaborately. I will have uh, 2 more things and I will finish off. The thing is waiting period or pre-harvest interval. Both the terminology is same. I explained what is waiting period. Waiting period is the minimum length of time you must wait after applying pesticide before it is safe to harvest the crop. So that means the minimum time that you have to allow to harvest the produce once that commodity is sprayed. So once you have sprayed it today, after how many days you are allowed to harvest. That is waiting period or pre-harvest interval. Another definition is that this is the amount of time in days between the time of the crop is sprayed with pesticide and the time it can be harvested. So spraying and harvesting, what is the time between? That is waiting period or pre-harvesting. For especially vegetables, do follow waiting period. That is that waiting period depends on several things. It's not common. It's on the type crop, it is on the pesticide use, the dose used, everything varies. I've given a simple example. Say imidacloprid. See the waiting period in cotton, paddy, chili, sugarcane, mango, etc. It is about 40 days. Take the case of tomato, bindi, etc. It is 3 days. So that is the difference. Different crops, the waiting period is different. Because one thing also you should keep in mind is that waiting period does not mean that for 40 days the pesticide residues will remain in paddy. Say in paddy, if you spray imidacloprid, don't think that up to 40 days pesticide residues will be remaining. It's not so. ഇവിടെ നിങ്ങൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കേണ്ട ഒരു കാര്യം എന്താണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ, this is according to good agriculture practices. Good agriculture practices means according to recommendation. Usually in paddy, we doesn't recommend any pesticide after the minimum 30 days before harvest. ഇന്ന് കൊയ്ത്താണെങ്കിൽ 30 ദിവസത്തിന് മുമ്പ് ആയിരിക്കണം നമ്മളുടെ ഒരു ലാസ്റ്റ് പെസ്റ്റിസൈഡ് സ്പ്രേ. നമ്മളൊരു മലയാളത്തിലൊരു ചൊല്ലുണ്ട്, കതിരി കൊണ്ടുപോയി വളം വെക്കരുത്. In the same manner, once the panicle has emerged, there is no need. But even if you have a pest infestation, even if you spray it, you can't save the crop. Usually, in imidacloprid in paddy, it is recommended against BPH, brown plant hopper. That's the pest, and it usually comes between 70 the maximum tillering and panicle initiation. So at that time only you are recommended to spray. You are allowed to spray. then you will harvest after 40 days only. That's why the waiting period automatically comes to 40 days. In chili, imidacloprid is recommended as seed treatment, early stage. So in the early stage, it will come to flower after 45 days. So the waiting period is 40. Sugarcane, termite is a problem once you are planting the sets and you are harvesting sugarcane after 10 to 12 months. So there will be higher waiting period. So that's the way it is worked out. It doesn't mean that the residues will remain for 45 days. Come to the last two slides, antidotes. Do you know what is antidote? If someone consumes accident for a sorry, oh I forgot to share that slide. Just a minute. Okay. So this is what the table which I was describing. Okay. Antidote means the drug which is given to for the treatment of a pesticide poisoning. If someone accidentally consumes a pesticide, what should be the drug given as for treatment? That is antidote. So the universal antidote, that means the antidote which can be given for any kind of pesticide poisoning, that contains 7 gram activated charcoal, 3.5 gram magnesium oxide, and 3.5 gram tannic acid in half a glass of water. This is works against almost all pesticides. That is why it is called as universal antidote. It contains 7 gram activated charcoal, 3.5 gram magnesium oxide, and 3.5 gram tannic acid in half glass water. For organophosphorus pesticides, two drugs are recommended: atropine and 2-PAM. Atropine sulfate and 2-PAM. 2-PAM, it is pralidoxine. The chemical is pralidoxine. For carbamate, we can use only atropine only. So OP and carbamates, if you ask what is the antidote, you can write atropine. In OP, we can use atropine along with 2-PAM. For organochlorine poisoning, we can use barbiturates and calcium gluconate. Barbiturates and calcium gluconate. The last thing that is the body which registers pesticide in our countries. I told you about pesticide registration and all. The government authority which is vested with the registration of a pesticide is Central Insecticide Board and Registration Committee. Actually, the CIBRC, Central Insecticide Board and Registration Committee, is having two parts. One is Central Insecticide Board and second is Registration Committee. And the Central Insecticide Board is the one which specifies the use of pesticides, waiting period, shelf life, color code, etc. And the Registration Committee is meant for a registration of the pesticide. Just remember about the name Central Insecticide Board and Registration Committee. Then two slides. I'll just go through advantages of insecticides and disadvantages. Sometimes it is asked in essays and all. One is therapeutic in nature. That means once you have a heavy pesticide, heavy pest load in a crop, you have to go for insecticide only for treatment. If you want to get rid of a particular insect pest, you have to use insecticide. It is therapeutic in nature. Usually, insecticide will offer higher rates compared to biocontrol or organic options. Better crop quality than organic option. That is one thing. Then the ability of small population of agriculture provide, because not all persons can shift to organic agriculture. Organic agriculture, smallholders, it is extremely difficult. So with the land area diminishing, organic agriculture is not that a viable option. So insecticides will have a role to play. And in organic agriculture, we have to go for repeated sprays of the organic pesticides. So labor cost will be more. Insecticides, it will give quick results for managing vectors, for mosquitoes and all. This is the only method. And it is safe if used properly. Underline that, safe if used properly. And the disadvantages, we have human toxicity and health effect, resistance, continuous use of pesticides, insect can develop resistance, residue, I told you about residue pesticides reaching soil, water, air, food, and feed. Resurgence is another thing. Resurgence of the name is that name indicates that if you spray a pesticide against a particular pest, instead of decrease in pest population, there will be a drastic increase in pest population. So the pest population increases following an insecticide application. That is resurgence. That sometimes occurs. Then non-target effects. That means it can affect those organisms which are not targeted. Say if you're targeting a particular insect pest, those insects which are not at all targeted, which is a beneficial to us, may also get killed, such as fishes, honeybees, etc. So they have non-target effects. So I'm stopping. Sorry for taking 10 minutes more. Yes, and then material substance like counteract poison. Okay. Thank you. Any doubts? I don't know how much you understood. Don't think this class is extremely important for examination. No. For examination purpose,